Ivan. I am terrible. Medieval slang. Go. Don't make me let the monster out. It'll be a horror scene. NC-17 stay inside your house. Your wardrobe should be a skirt and blouse. The way you got a tail bearing is a marathon inside your mouth. Come from an era they forgot about. If it was war we saw each other, you would dip and flee another route. I'm from New York, they never die for clout. Innovators, trendsetters from the east, north, west, and south. Don't act dumb, know what I'm talking about. Had it and we lost it. Got me sick and nauseous. Now it's drugs and Porsches, so balance, conscious, cautious. The end is right here, we already passed the horses. Pride is at its pinnacle. People gone cynical. Evil thoughts are continual. Look at the seeds of vigil. Look, how much longer can it last? Before the heavens open crash. And walk out unawares cause your only focus is ass. Or chasing the bad cash, even Judas did that. But know you seeking this racks and do whatever to get it. Enjoy it now, spend it. When I yearn for more splendid. Only iron sharpens iron, but you don't get comprehended. Gatekeepers been abandoned and given to those standards. Just look at who they stand with. A picture speaks value. Rich is what they value. Money is their treasure. False hopes imagining they gon' have it forever. That's what they trust in. Lust in, commit acts disgusting. Victim of seduction. Enters in corruption. Your mind's lost, stuck inside. Still promote genocide and other crimes. Eventually the homicide. Influence energies. Cause hatred enemies. Division, not synergy. More concerned with vanity. Same results insanity. Nothing ever changes. We in the final phases. The closing of the ages. Medieval slang. Gone. Peace. We alive. We alive. We alive. Live. We alive. Salute. We alive. Peace. Peace. Salute, brother. Peace. So we're going to continue with the topic from last week's presentation, and there'll be more added to this week's presentation in regard to, are we still subject to experiments? Are we still subject to experiments? So I have a guess, for the past couple of, for quite a few actually, of lives and presentations that's been done. I made mention of a couple of people that possibly in the future may be joining me as a guest. And tonight I have one of those guests, one of my brothers that's going to be in attendance with me tonight. And I'm going to bring him in a second. In the meantime, I'm going to get these clips together for tonight's presentation. And we're going to start off with I think we'll just get right into the interview. I had an article, but I think the interview serves better. And we're gonna let it run. As always, everything that's presented tonight in tonight's presentation will be available for you in the description to go over and to go check for yourself. All I'm doing is presenting the information. If you believe, praise God. If you don't, praise God. You have your liberty. You have your freedom. Everything that's been presented thus far has been proven. This is not a theory. These are actual conspiracies. I presented on earlier presentations. Hold on one second. Yes, I had presented in previous presentations articles from these organizations, from these three-letter organizations, governmental organizations that have admitted openly to experimenting on U.S. citizens, be it them knowing or them not knowing that they were being experimented on. So I'm going to get into the first one, but before I do, I'm going to bring our guest on tonight that's going to be joining me here on Do You See What We See? It's God Time. I'm going to introduce my brother Aaron, a.k.a. Gap Tooth Truth. Peace, brother.
Peace. What's going on? This audio is giving me some issues. It's not coming through on my Bluetooth for some reason, and it's not even connecting.
What is it doing?
I'm sorry?
What is the audio doing?
It's only playing through my phone as opposed to connecting to my headset. And even though I went out, came back in, I turned it off and on, I'm connected.
Yeah, you're coming through clear. I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, but it's like, so even on my phone, it's not playing loud. Like I could hear you because I can hear, but it's not playing at the level that it's supposed to, even on my phone. And it's definitely not coming through my my Bluetooth, which is crazy. Because it was just playing, and then I don't know. As soon as after you did the music, the intro, it dropped out of the Bluetooth. Weird.
Okay. Let me see something.
I can do on this end to make it connect. It makes it real.
How about now? The same?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
All right, you want to try to come out again and come back?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop out and then come back in.
All right, cool. All right, so in the meantime, we're gonna wait for the brother to try to link back in. A little technical difficulty. Continuing with the topic, are we still subject to experiments? What do you think? You tuned in? Let me know what you think. Are we still subject to experiments? Are experiments still being conducted on American citizens? Did they advance in the experimentations? Meaning, did they now, or do they now conduct these experiments through other means of mind control? All right, let's see if it works.
Yeah, that worked. I can hear you loud and clear now.
All right, perfect. So we got you live. We hear you loud and clear as well. So yeah, if you believe, praise God. If you don't, praise God. You have your freedom. You have your liberty. All that's being done is the presenting of information for you to go and do with it as you see fit. You want to look further into it, you can do that. If you want to discard it, you can do that as well. But the information that's being presented is proof, is things that have been proven already. So we're going to continue with where we left off last week in this topic of, are we still subject to experiments? And I'm going to play this interview. Let me get it loaded up. Let me see how we looking. All right, we gotta hold on. One second. make sure it's on the screen. Okay, there we go. We have it. All right, so this is an interview from 1989 for an individual named Sirhan Sirhan. And he is currently incarcerated for the assassination of Robert Kennedy. So let's get into this interview. Let's pay close attention to the things that he's saying. And feel free, Gap Tooth Truth, my brother Aaron, at any time you want to interject on something that he said to point out, feel free.
All right.
All right, so let's get to it.
When did your feelings start to take on this incredibly obsessional quality? Was it the Arab-Israeli war after you came to this country?
Well, I suppose that it came to the fore when I began to focus on it. Erupted as soon after the 1967 war, where the Arabs had lost and the Israelis won. And my anger at the American people's reaction to the loss of the Palestinians and the Arabs.
It was after a campaign speech in Oregon, during which Kennedy promised military support for Israel, that Sirhan targeted him for death. Sirhan is now serving a life sentence at the California Correctional Facility at Soledad. He agreed to speak exclusively to Inside Edition with the hope that it might help him get paroled.
One speech that sets you off doesn't deserve a terrible fate like that.
No, I agree, and I sincerely regret my actions for that. I was young, I was immature, I was wild. I really didn't have the ability to sit back and reflect on it as just one speech, perhaps one pandering speech to a potential block of voters whom he was appealing to. And now, of course, I realize that, and I wish that I could reverse all my actions concerning Robert Kennedy.
But why did Robert Kennedy...
Did you know that you can have permanent teeth in just 24 hours? That's right. Only 24 hours and your new smile is ready.
The friend of the downtrodden become the focus of this hatred?
Because to me, he was my hero. He was my champion. He was the protector and the defender of the downtrodden and the disadvantaged. I felt that I was one. And to have him say that he was going to send 50 Phantom jets to Israel to deliver nothing but death and destruction on my countrymen, that seemed as though it were a betrayal, sir. And it was sad for me to accept, and it was hard for me to accept, and just didn't. And all my hopes were focused on Robert Kennedy. I was his supporter.
That was the quality that Robert Kennedy stood for, was hope.
There was that loss of hope at the same time, sir. And this is the part that really sort of angers me, that this double standard of the politicians, and particularly Bobby Kennedy. On the one hand, during the 60s, during the campaign, he was all in favor of stopping the war in Vietnam, and he wants to bring our boys home. And in the next breath, he wants to send more bombs and more Phantom jets to Israel to kill human beings, but Palestinians in this instance.
In the months before the assassination, Sirhan kept a diary. In it, he wrote over and over again, RFK must die.
I don't even refer to them as diaries, really. They were just scribblings more than detailed entries in a diary.
But you said RFK must die by
That's right, I recall that.
June the 5th, things like that. But I mean, throughout that period, were your feelings just getting stronger and stronger, or what?
They must have been, obviously, but I can't say that there was any deliberateness to the killing. I mean, not all my feelings were drumming towards that goal of assassinating Bobby Kennedy. No, but it was just in general that, and it wasn't just typical of me as an Arab. I think that a whole Arab community in this country felt, downcast and crestfallen by the defeat of by their defeat in the Middle East.
But again, this terrible punishment for one speech about phantom jets, I mean, haunts people, I think.
It does haunt people. But suppose that you were a Black or Hispanic living in America and had Robert Kennedy as your ideal champion, as your savior in America. And had you all of a sudden heard him say that he was going to send some 50 jets to destroy all the Black or Hispanic populations in this country, how would you have felt? And what would you have done if you thought that you could do something about it? You know,
and that's what you thought, you could do something
that's
about
exactly,
it.
Well, imagine though, that if you were a German or if you were a Jew in Hitler's Germany, and if you had the opportunity to assassinate Hitler, I'm sure that they would have tried to do that. What, to me, I felt
But there's
that,
no comparison between Hitler and Robert Kennedy.
agreed. But the principle so seems to be.
If you could pause it right there,
Wow. I
just with what the
RFK.
interviewer said, and he's doing, you know, he's taking a position instead of interviewing, but I guess that's just his style, where he said there's no comparison between Robert F. Kennedy and Hitler, except that Sirhan Sirhan had just drew the parallel. So he just dismissed what he said after presenting the parallel. The parallel between him and Hitler in this instance would have been that you know, Hitler was killing Jews, and Robert F. Kennedy Sr. had just pledged 50 jets to Israel that they would use on the Palestinians,
Right.
which are his people. You know, he's fertile. He was fertile ground for whatever what he ended up doing. He was fertile soil for that anger, which he just presented, and it was dismissed. I just saw that as, you know, that's crazy that he just dismissed it right after he drew the parallel, and it was a correct parallel.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to
let me ask you, while watching this interview, and anybody else that's tapped in with us right now, looking at him and hearing his speech and hearing him, you know, express everything that he's expressing and going in detail, and there's a little bit more to go. What is your overall, if I could say, assessment of him right now? Does this look like an individual that is under some type of spell, under some type of control, or is this an individual that is highly intelligent, that, you know, is aware of things politically and so forth and so on, and he took action?
Well, yeah, I mean, in this particular instance, he's extremely lucid. He seems level-headed. He presented an issue and an argument and an action that some a rational person from his community would take. He even drew the parallel between Hispanics and Blacks in this country, because he can relate to them in terms of the oppression that community has felt under the hands of oppressors here, that he was feeling under the hands of oppressors there. Right. So he doesn't come across as, I mean, this would be listen, in the perfect situation, you don't want anyone to die. But if you think about it, if you're supporting a specific person that is that has their hands on the levers of power, and they're about to pull that lever to, in a manner that would harm your people, your family, your country, and then you have you're in a position to I guess
take some sort of action.
Yeah, take action, like you said. This would be it would be reasonable, and he's coming across as a reasonable minded person.
All right, so let's continue, and then we're gonna get to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's continue.
With 20 years of malice aforethought. Now, you obviously did not know him. What were you trying to say?
I tried to really show that the Palestinian problem did not just suddenly erupt with the shooting of Bobby Kennedy, that there was a history to it that dated back to 1947 or 1948, when the state of Israel was created forcibly on the Arabs, and when the Palestinian Arabs were forced to,
He's very informed.
Yeah, he's talking about the Balfour Agreement for 1948 when the what is now the UN, uh, but at the time was I think it was the Access, not the Access Powers, the I forgot what they call it. I don't know why it's slipping my mind, but headed by Britain, decided through the Zionist movement to place the current Israelis into Israel, and into Palestine. Actually, yeah, I'm saying Israel. It's the indoctrination is crazy. Into Palestine, and displace the Palestinians. And even in that agreement, them having never been there, and the Palestinians having been there for hundreds of years, I think about 1,000 years now, almost, gave them 57% of Palestine to a people who had never been there, never.
Mhm.
That's why he said forcibly, and they did it under threat of destruction. It wasn't like they call it the Balfour Agreement, but it wasn't an agreement. It was forcibly done. But yeah,
Let's continue.
evacuate and be expelled from their homes and lands to accommodate the new arrivals, the new Jewish arrivals in Palestine. I feel that having experienced what I have experienced in Palestine, atrocities, the killings, the violence, and just the uprooting of massive populations, it did have an impact on me, I suppose, more than it did on others. By saying this, I'm not trying to discount the seriousness of the killing.
During the trial, 6 months after his brother's murder, Senator Edward Kennedy wrote a letter to the court asking that Sirhan's life be spared.
It was a supreme act of mercifulness. You know, when I read that, when I heard it read aloud in court, I was stunned by Senator Kennedy's magnanimity towards me. I didn't feel that I was deserving of it, to be honest with you.
How long before I see results with Tai Chi?
Day 3, you'll feel your energy. Day 7, your eyes will change. Day 20.
The jury recommended the death penalty anyway, and the judge ordered Sirhan taken to San Quentin, there to be put to death in the gas chamber.
When you went to death row, was that a surprise, or did you think, well, if this had happened in an Arab country, it would have been an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and
well,
I'd be dead anyway?
It's an interesting question. If I had shot Robert Kennedy in an Arab country, I seriously doubt that any Arab jury or Arab court would have convicted. And if they did, the punishment would have been nothing more than a slap on the wrist. Knowing the dynamics involved, that Robert Kennedy was an advocate of full support for Israel.
That spell on death row, what were particularly your recollections of that?
It was really, there was a realization that I was spending the last days of my life. And I really felt that I was going to be put to death for my offense. And I just tried to maximize as much as I could, what was left of my life to realize what I might have missed out on in life and what there was that I could have, reversed or corrected.
Palestinian.
All right, so we're going to stop it there. Again, it'll be available in the description once this presentation is done. So that's an interview with him back in 1989. And let's get the next one ready. Let's get the next one ready.
Here you go. So, continuing with the topic, are we still subject to experiments? In this video, I'm not going to play the whole thing. Obviously, it's about 45 minutes long. It goes into CIA's MK Ultra mind control program and Kennedy's assassination with Sirhan Sirhan. So let's get into it.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Thank you very much.
On the 8th of June, 1968, Americans paid tribute to a remarkable politician. The younger brother of former President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert Kennedy, had been assassinated 3 days earlier in the back room of a Los Angeles hotel. Sirhan Sirhan was arrested at the scene of the crime in what the Los Angeles Police Department, the LAPD, thought was an open and shut case.
We're trying to prove that there was a travesty of justice in 1969 at Sirhan's trial. We're trying to prove that there was no way that he could have shot the senator, let alone killed the senator.
My main job right now is putting the truth together that Sirhan did not shoot Robert Kennedy, the second gunman did.
If you look at him, he came to America in the late 50s as a child, as a refugee from Palestine. He had quite a tough life growing up, and then suddenly he's in the spotlight as the assassin of Robert Kennedy without remembering anything that happened that night.
Kennedy had.
But as we saw in the other clip, in the prior clip, he spoke like he knew exactly what he was doing, what he was there to do.
Yep.
Right? And very versed in the reasoning why he was doing what he was doing on every level. But as was just mentioned,
authorized the selling of bombers to Israel. And
you bring that back.
If you look at him, he came to America in the late 50s as a child, as a refugee from Palestine. He had quite a tough life growing up, and then suddenly he's in the spotlight as the assassin of Robert Kennedy without remembering anything that happened that night.
Kennedy had authorized the selling of bombers to Israel, and that incensed him because he was from Palestine and he felt the Palestinians were getting a bad rap. That's what his lawyers argued in the trial, that he was so upset at that he kind of snapped and went into a self-induced trance and killed Kennedy in a moment of rage.
I believe that Sirhan was a gentle person. He had never done a violent thing in his life.
When he saw Kennedy speak at an earlier event, he said Kennedy looked like a saint to him. And it's like, this was a man whose politics really lined up with Sirhan's. So it is a weird break for him to suddenly turn around and want to kill the guy who really is more sympathetic to his cause than any other politician on the American scene.
Sirhan Sirhan had no criminal record before Robert Kennedy's assassination. He wasn't involved in any political activity, and the Palestinian cause had no real traction in the US at that time, despite the 1967 war.
I would think, in terms of a case like this, properly looking into it and properly looking at a guy who's still in prison. Lee Harvey Oswald obviously was killed 2 days after the JFK assassination. James Earl Ray, the alleged killer of Martin Luther King, he died in the late 90s. So Sirhan is still with us. Why not investigate his case properly while there's still time and we can do something about it?
In 2017, US President Donald Trump ordered the release of all documents relating to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy's older brother, in 1963. These files had remained classified since 1964.
I didn't shoot anybody, no, sir.
Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested in Dallas, but was shot dead 2 days later live on TV, and so never went to trial. Sirhan Sirhan was arrested at the scene of Robert Kennedy's shooting and sentenced to death in April 1969, commuted to life imprisonment 3 years later.
That was him in 2011.
Since the 1970s, commentators and eyewitnesses have called for a new investigation. And in 2012, the senator's son, Robert Kennedy Jr., wrote to the Attorney General asking for new evidence to be considered in the case. Al Jazeera has now examined the different theories about the assassination and the reasons behind calls for a new investigation into the conviction of Sirhan nearly 50 years ago.
Quite right that a lot of evidence was destroyed. A lot of evidence was destroyed. Scandalous, horrendous. In a case, in any murder case, to destroy
Give it
evidence
about
the way
10,
they
12
did.
minutes.
That's
Then,
horrendous.
I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
You know, I can't speak for the LAPD and why, you know, they didn't do a better job investigating the case, why they destroyed some evidence. I don't know.
All the evidence was destroyed after the trial. But they had a legal obligation to save the evidence because Sirhan was going to file an appeal, or his attorneys were. So that evidence, under the law, should have been preserved for the appeal. And according to the LA Police Department, they just didn't have the space to store it.
Several commentators and witnesses have said the LAPD lost or hid evidence, or that there was a second gunman. Books have been written and different conspiracy theories examined. Documents have gone missing and people have died, taking their evidence with them. Al Jazeera has gone back to the events of the 5th of June 1968 and heard from eyewitnesses and from journalists who've looked into the case for 10 years. It's also examined audio and visual evidence which may not have been given enough credence at the time. It's not possible to return to the actual scene of the crime. The Ambassador Hotel was demolished in 2006 and the Robert F. Kennedy Community Schools opened on the site in 2010.
Yeah, just like with the old world buildings, they had to destroy all traces of evidence.
Yeah, and even that program that they referenced, you know, the MK Ultra, there's so many layers to it. Just speaking to what you're talking about with the experimentation, the MK Ultra program, people don't even know why they use that term. Ultra is what they use for things that are above top secret. So people may have heard of the deep state. So the deep state is when they're talking about who runs that. You got your politicians and everything, your president, you know, both houses of, you got the Congress and the Senate and everything. But then there is the deep state. Those are the ones who control it. So a program like that is above all of those people's pedigree, and it gets designated the ultra level. And then when they're talking about MK Ultra, M is that's talking about mind experimentation, and the K is just they started with A. This was the K level, so they were doing it in alphabetical order. So when they say MK Ultra, that is just when you got to K, whatever was all the letters before that, they had different levels of it before they got to this level.
Right.
So I mean, it is so pervasive that people don't even. I mean, we don't know about it because we're not privy to it. And look at that, what they said. This is from 1963, and then they don't even declassify it until 2020s.
Right.
You know, 80 years after it's like, I mean, 60 years after the fact, where you even get to know about any of these things. It's just it's so many levels to how evil this stuff is, man. But yes, that in it of itself is an experimentation program. And what's crazy, Ivan, is that the CIA, its charter was that they were not supposed to operate on American soil against the American citizens. So even having a program like that where your program is implemented on United States soil and also used on or against or for American citizens is not supposed to be done. Which is crazy because the reason why
they also did it in Canada, and I'm sure in other countries as well. But what's documented is Canada. There's a lot of people from Canada that suffered from that.
And last thing before you start it up is that just the connection with what I was just saying about where the CIA was supposed to be allowed to operate and not allowed to operate. Right before Kennedy, not Robert Kennedy, but John F. Kennedy was murdered, he said that he wanted to take the CIA and break it into 1,000 pieces and cast it into the wind.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. All proven points. Again, if you believe, praise God. If you don't, praise God. You have your liberty. You have your freedom. Just presenting the information. You take it and do with it as you see fit. Continuing on.
Schools and memorials now stand near where Robert Kennedy was assassinated on the evening of the 5th of June, 1968. He just won the primary election to be the California Democratic Party's nomination for U.S. president. There was a last-minute decision to take a back route out from the main hall through a small kitchen where he was shot.
I saw Sirhan prior to the senator coming down. When I first saw him, I thought he was another dishwasher.
That person didn't seem unusual to me. He didn't appear out of the ordinary. He was just started making small talk with me, asking me, how long do you think the speech is going to last? Is it almost over? And I just said, I don't know.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
He finished his speech. I could hear the applause. And then I saw him and his entourage begin walking toward me.
The first time I saw Sirhan, as we entered the room, where there was a tray stacker here, which was 6 to 8 inches above the ground. Sirhan was not a very tall person, so he was standing on top of that. There were a bunch of trays, but you could still stand on it. So he could see above everybody, and he could see as the senator was progressing.
Bob was moving on at that point, so I was about 6 feet behind.
The senator would have been to my left, and I would have been almost parallel to him, walking toward the colonial room. I was probably about 2 steps ahead of Senator Kennedy at that time.
I was standing literally within 3 feet of the senator. Carl was pulling Senator Kennedy, I believe, by his left hand, which made it awkward for the senator because he was shaking with his right hand and Carl was grabbing his left, pulling him this way.
Vincent DiPiero was very near to Kennedy when he was shot, but his testimony differs from the other eyewitnesses.
So Bob was shaking hands, and after he came in, I followed him in. He started shaking hands with Jesus Perez and Juan Romero.
Romero was a hotel worker in the crush of people around Kennedy as he moved through the kitchen.
I was able to shake his hand. Then he took a step forward, took a step and a half.
All right, so we're gonna stop it there. Again, this will be available in the description. Everything that's shared in this presentation will be available in the description. So we see the evidence of the United States government conducting experiments on its citizens. It's documented. They have those files declassified. Even their involvement in Hollywood, their involvement with Walt Disney, and the different agendas that are applied in cartoons. It's all by design. It's all
Absolutely.
by design. So are we still subject to experiments? That's the question.
Yeah,
As the brother was just
that's the
mentioning
affirmative.
earlier, in regards to MK Ultra and MK being the K representing the level, and that's from the 60s. What level of mind control are they on now?
Well,
like how heightened, how elevated is the mind control? the music from program directors playing the same song in rotation 40 to 60 times a day, every 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Television, certain agendas, sitcoms, cartoons, dramas, series, a certain agenda is constantly pushed. And then we see those numbers rise and people indulging in that lifestyle. That's by design, right? So let's look at this. Let's look at this. This was back in, and I'm going here for a reason. For those that watch and, you know, always tapped in and tuned in, you know, when I present something, I'm presenting it for a reason. Okay. Hold on one second. Here we go. All right. This was back in this was 13 years ago. Yeah, this was 13 years ago. How many of you remember this? How many of you remember this? My laptop was like glitching.
This is an ABC News special report.
To update you on the situation, if you're just now joining us, at least 14 dead, 50 injured. A lot of those injuries are severe after a lone gunman opens fire in a theater outside of Denver, Colorado, in Aurora. We want you to listen actually to this cell phone video that's just now coming into the ABC newsroom. This will be the first time that we've actually seen or heard this video, so take a listen.
Good thing we're not in that movie, dude.
And you see images like that, and you can hear the panic, you can hear the chaos, you can see kind of the folks scrambling to get out of what must have been a horrible scene.
So, you remember that? The person that they caught, his name is James Holmes. All right. Hold on a second. Let me get the clip. James Holmes.
Confinement, secret locations, and allegations of prison guard violence. Here's what James Holmes' life in prison is like now. On July 20th, 2012.
Look at the eyes.
Yeah.
Look at the eyes, brother.
James Holmes killed 12 people and injured dozens more during a screening of The Dark Knight Rises, in one of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history. Holmes was given a life sentence for each of the 12 people he had killed, plus another 3,318 years for those he injured and for the explosives he had wired in his apartment, per CNN. Holmes was subsequently sent to the Colorado State Penitentiary. Reports quickly emerged that Holmes was allegedly being treated unfairly well. With a fellow inmate riding to Westward, Holmes has been placed in a 16-man pod all by himself. He gets out of his cell 2 hours in the AM and 2 hours in the PM. Whenever he is out of his cell, a guard sits in a chair in front of the pod and watches him. I thought you might be interested to know the amount of resources the Department of Corrections is expending on this dude. The DOC confirmed that Holmes had a whole...
Every time I seen this image in the courtroom with his face and the hair, it doesn't look like there's a soul there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like the lights are on, but nobody's home. Like,
yeah.
For sure. Even in his picture, it comes through in the photo, in his mugshot. And, you know, for somebody to be walking around like that, and I think it was at Aurora, right? Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was one of the Batman movies or whatever.
Yeah,
I think it
Batman
was. Like, and they had the midnight showings or whatever. Yeah, he shot like, I think he shot like almost 60 people. But I know only like 10 or 12 people of them died.
Okay.
But he tried to, okay, yeah, there you go. He tried to kill, I mean, he hit 58. Like, that type
he tried to take everybody out inside that theater.
Yeah, he was indiscriminate about where he shot. I mean, he did discriminate because he went there to shoot those, you know, people in the theater. But once he was in it, it didn't matter. He was trying to take out any and everybody, and that's not like, yeah, I mean, that's unnatural. I would have to say that's unnatural to even come up with something like that. It's just unnatural.
Yeah.
But speaking on the,
I want you to see another picture of him.
Reflection to himself, but claimed that the prison was under capacity at the time. They also alleged that Holmes was receiving the same treatment afforded to all prisoners of the same classification.
Separated from the rest of the male population, we're told, for his own safety.
Colorado Prisons Director Steve Hager told ABC News it had been decided that Holmes should be isolated from every other inmate and only have interactions with prison staff. However, on October 8th,
it's like a totally different person from what we saw earlier. It's like a totally different person. From this guy right here. It's a totally different person, right? Well, I mean, it's the same person, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, the I don't know what you want to call it. The countenance is different.
Yep.
It's a different different look to him.
Even the eyes. Could he have been under mind control? Could he have been used?
Definitely possible.
A lot of times, sacrifices are made by the elites, these witches and warlocks. It's a Batman premiere. I wonder what were the numbers for Batman that year. It seems like a sacrifice. If you agree, praise God. If you don't, praise God. You have your liberty. You have your freedom. That's my opinion. Because as you mentioned earlier, it doesn't seem, this is not natural. Like, what do you think?
Well, considering that they were experimenting with mind control back in the 60s in California and many different places in the country, mostly around college campuses and things like that, with breaking down the mind, the barriers in the mind with LSD and things like that. And then you look at how whacked out he looked in the one picture, right? Versus the other. It looks like, and this is documented, so it's not like, tinfoil hat or anything like that. The declassified document said for the MK Ultra program said that one of the many drugs that they used was LSD, acid, and all other stuff. You saw there's people could look online. There's videos of college students that thought they could fly, jumping off buildings and stuff like that. Manson was a CIA operative who they in the declassified documents that he was sent to experiment with people with LSD and things like that because it puts you in a suggestive state. So if they were doing that back then, you can only understand that they would advance in their abilities by the time you get to what year was that? 2012 was that?
Hmm?
That was 2012.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, from the 60s to 2012, as you know, the way you do one thing is the way you do most things, and our government they look to perfect things like that. So if they go if you draw a line from let's say 1960 to 2012, that's 52 years later, and if the program never stopped, yeah, you got to imagine that they gotten better at doing whatever it is they were attempting to do, to where, man, you can activate people to do all sorts of things once and he definitely looked whacked out his mind.
So with that brings us to the latest. Now, I'm not saying with this situation that this is a case of mind control, but I'm also not saying it isn't. What do you think? So the first one I'm gonna play is the incident, and then I'm gonna play the conversation. This is a recent situation where a man has been arrested for a random attack, which was a murder by what odds it was a white woman, but a white woman from the Ukraine. And this happened to be a black man. And what's the odds that she sat in front of him and he did what he did? What's the odds of that? I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's mind control, but I'm also not saying it isn't. And when I play the next clip, you take it and you decide for yourself. Let's see.
I just want to say something right there where they did a stopgap and skip what actually took place.
Mhm.
You know, he struck her several times, but it's in the video. They don't allow you to see it, but you can go on Twitter and it's there. It doesn't even appear that he has anything in his hand unless you saw the video before he got up. You see him opening up it's not a butterfly knife. It's like I forgot what they call it. The ones that you the clamshell ones that you extend,
Yeah,
open up.
it's like a little pocket knife. Yeah.
Yeah, pocket knife. You see him open it up or whatever. But it's not outside of that. It's not obvious what he had done, and she didn't even respond as if in a way that would suggest that she had been stabbed. For all the internet people who were saying that everybody around him didn't do anything, etc. It really isn't obvious what he did outside of swinging on her. And from the video, it even looks like she may have blocked the blows. We know now that she didn't, but it really, really is not obvious exactly what happened until it's too late.
And he also he cut himself.
Yeah, because he had to take his shirt off.
And he took his hoodie off. In one of the other videos, there's blood that's dripping while he's walking, and that's from his hand, from the hand that he had the knife in, and he cut himself in the process. So, what's the odds? Again, what's the probability like of a black man and then a white woman sits right in front of him and she happens to be a Ukrainian refugee? What's the odds of this? There's video that shows, and I don't know if I have it, but there's videos that show the whole time. It wasn't instant when she just got on. It was several minutes and he's looking, but there's different facial expressions. Similar to the facial expressions that I just showed with James Holmes.
Yeah,
he's not.
That last one was that smirk.
There's something missing. There's something wrong. So let's get into this next one, which is my last one. With a conversation with Decarlos Brown and his sister.
You've all heard of the stabbing of Irene Zarotska by Decarlos Brown. And recently, a recorded phone call between Brown and his sister was released where he explains his so-called reasons for the attack. Apparently, foreign materials were controlling his body. Here's the clip.
So you said something in your body did what?
Nah, the material, put it like this, the material used my body to stab the lady.
And so she just got stabbed.
Yeah. You know that's not me. I'm talking about just for no reason. But since they did that, now they gotta investigate the material my body is supposed to. Since they want to do all that, now they gotta investigate.
It's funny because she's from the Ukraine. She's from Russia, and they got a war. They had a war going on against the United States. So I'm just trying to understand, out of all people, why her?
That's it ain't. I don't have nothing. They just lashed out on her. That's what happened. They lashed out on her. Whoever was working the material, whoever was working the material, they lashed out on her.
Right, let's break this down. First, let's not pretend this was some unstoppable psychotic episode. Brown's own words after the attack were, "I got that white girl." That's not.
All right, so I got that. I'm not here for his commentary. I got the information. I brought that clip out for the conversation between Decarlos Brown and his sister. He said the materials was getting to him. The materials getting to him. Now, it's said that he had schizophrenia, that he's a schizo. So people will most likely say that that's what he's referring to. But you would say you would think they would say the voices, right? Like not material that's in him. That's just weird.
Yeah, that's real an unusual way to describe it, and it's not something that I've ever heard someone say. I've heard of the voices in me or the spirit in me, and then even some people even say give it a specific name or whatever. But to say the materials, that's vague and very specific at the same time. It's like that don't it don't yeah, it doesn't make sense unless you know more. I guess it doesn't make sense otherwise.
So what they talk about with him is that he has this extensive criminal record, 14 convictions or whatever, and it's all on the state level. So now with this one, they elevated to federal level. So I guess that's what he's referring to. Since they did that, now they gotta investigate. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, yeah, they're gonna have to look at his record to see what kind of crimes he has on his jacket, what he was involved with. A lot of people.
I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but I'm referring more to the statement with him with the material inside of him. That's what he was.
Well, yeah. That's what I was about to. That's what I was about to link up with that. When
all right, yeah, my bad.
You may have witnessed this. That people who get involved, who got long jackets and stuff like that, they end up getting quote unquote treatment while they're incarcerated or in custody. Right. They get psych evaluations, and usually they medicate them. And of course, you were speaking about the topic is experimentation. A lot of experimentation is done on prisoners. And they will test out different levels or different prescriptions and document how prisoners react to them. This is known. Like you just look it up. You can go on the chat GPT or Grok or on Google, whatever you want, and check that out. This is not like this ain't no rabbit hole type stuff. This is common knowledge. Right. So they in these scenarios, they don't treat you like the way it would if you go into a paid therapist to work out your issues. Their answer to it is medication, medicating the person so that they could make them more pliable in different ways. And it's known that prisoners have been and are used for dosage experimentation and different drugs. So if he's saying materials and he has a long jacket, what would have to be looked at is, okay, how many times was he given psych evaluations or dealt with a psychologist or a psychiatrist in these interactions and the times that he was arrested, locked up, etc. Because then the picture would get a little bit clearer as to what he's talking about. And then they'd have to look into any documents that they have where they any records that they have on the interactions that he had with any social workers in the system, doctors in the system where that term comes up. Now, I know they won't do any investigation like that, but that would be how you would find out or get a better picture of what he's talking about when he says materials, because that's not normal to say that. Right. This is in South Carolina, right?
Right.
South Carolina or North Carolina? I always forget which one it was.
I think it was North Carolina.
So this is North Carolina. You know how we talk in the South. That's not how we talk. That's not how we talk. We're not going to use that specific word, materials, within me. materials. We're not going to say that. We would say something like, now it might be some of that shit they gave me or medication. Then you'll say even medication. Materials is not that specific.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, who knows what it is they're talking about? But that's an indication, because it's not part of even that region of the country's speech pattern to use materials in my blood, or that's not normal.
Right.
So I mean, that's just my assessment. This being the first time I heard that. I mean, I heard that this was out there, but I never heard it myself until just now. And that's what I get from that. When you're using that, you got to key in on that. There's certain ways that we talk, let's say up in New York, there's ways that we talk on the West Coast, there's ways that we talk even Midwest or the South. Right. And you got to look at speech patterns. Sometimes they give you an indication as to what where people come from, what they've been through. And that's not part of North or South Carolina speech. That's just not how we talk down there.
And to your point in regards to, the amount of cases that he has and the possibilities of treatments and medication and that having an effect, right? I think about these different pharmaceutical commercials of pills to help in one thing and then cause 50 other problems. Sometimes one of the problems or side effects is suicidal thoughts. What kind of pill are you taking to help with a toe stump where it make you want to damn kill yourself?
Yeah. The side effects may be the application in some cases.
Right. So, yeah, materials. When I heard it, it stood out to me too. It didn't make sense. Like, I would figure if he's diagnosed as a schizophrenic, you would say voices, spirits, or them people, them things, or what I'm saying? Something.
They give them names and stuff like that too. They'll have a name for it, like a person's name or a character name. I've heard of that, but materials in me, that's specific. That's different.
Right.
That's different and unusual.
Yeah, it is, man. It's something to think about, because it's not far-fetched, man. We are still subject to experiments. We absolutely are.
Now, with the experimentation part of it, it may not just be limited to him, because it's layers. People don't know that there are think tanks that operate within our government and all governments, where they take some of the they identify the most intelligent or highly intelligent among the population fairly early. You may have heard of the thing of it. Yeah, that's one. You heard of the Rhodes Scholars. Rhodes, as in, I forgot his first name, but Rhodes was his last name. The Rhodes Scholar, because a lot of people don't say it right. They just say Rhodes. It's Rhodes, and it's the guy's last name. But they identify people like that, and what they do is they war game them, and once they get them up and indoctrinated or brought in, they use these people to work out scenarios, right? And now it has transferred over to AI, where you can kind of game plan and play things out, right? How would this happen if we were to do X, Y, and Z, etc. Now, I don't want to get long-winded on it, because I know I can get long-winded. But what they do is they basically I'm saying war games because a lot of people are familiar with that, where they plan out and do scenarios, right? Where what would happen if we were to have this happen here, that happen there, etc. And then release it to the public, the information to the public, where where these actions or these instances or scenarios are used to influence and push the public a certain way. Now, you already know that they put fluoride in the water to make people more pliable. That's already been declassified. They put estrogen in the food to make the men more docile, the population more docile. These are all things priming the population so that they can accept suggestions to move in a certain way. And then they'll have events that take place, and then they have influencers already in place to tell you how you should think about this. For example, this particular case. We spoke a little bit about this earlier, but you know how when this happened, immediately you had influencers saying all over TikTok, if this was a black woman and that was a white man, X, Y, and Z would have happened. They would have burnt down the city, this, that, and the other. And of course, the public who are already leaning, those of us that are already leaning towards that, it's an easy connection, right? This is where they would say, yeah, that's true, that's right, man, that's crazy. We need to rise up, we need to do this, that, and the other. Now you got after this, most current incident, I won't mention it right this moment, but you got there was a rally where there was a protest. We had a bunch of white men saying white men fight back with signs and all that, because they've been pushing this thing where saying that straight white men are under attack. And it is truth to that. But they have been rallying and riling up the white male population to become more and more agitated, so that I don't know, I think it's to force some sort of civil war or something like that. But
Absolutely.
you've heard the that term going out there, black fatigue, and you got black people repeating it. So there are think tanks that set up domino situations where you hit this domino, you trigger that, and then you take a situation where someone attacks a blonde, attractive, young white female, right? I mean, this thing checks all the boxes, and then you get influencers, black and white, all over TikTok, all over Instagram, all over Facebook, and YouTube, saying, "Hey, if this was a black woman and the assailant was white, this would have happened." The problem with that is that one, that all that does is serve to divide us on the color line, right? So that you can promote racial tension. But it's also not true, because less than 10 years ago in Oakland, the exact same thing happened, where it was a white assailant and it was a black woman. Her name was Nia Wilson. Nia Wilson was her name.
What
Exact
was
same.
the name you said?
Nia Wilson. It happened in Oakland on the I forgot the name of their train, but they got a BART. Yeah, that's what it was, the BART train, whatever. So I believe that's in Oakland.
Yeah, the same train that Oscar Grant was killed on.
Exactly. That's the reason why it stuck in my head, BART, because that's the same train line that Oscar Grant was killed on. They did a movie on it. The Michael B. Jordan played the character. But anyway, this exact same thing happened. It was a white boy. They got it on video because there's video on the BART train. They showed a white dude pulling the a blade out of his pants leg, and as they're all exiting, he slit her throat, killed her right on the spot. And then when everybody was all frantic, he casually walked away when he had a change of clothes in his book bag and everything. Now that happened. That was on video and everything. Now they caught the guy. They tried. He was tried and prosecuted, and all. He's in jail. But what did not happen? Black people did not burn down Oakland. Okay, they didn't burn down any city behind it. And it was on the news. This wasn't like something that nobody ever heard of. You look it up. There's a whole story. There's several YouTube videos about it, breaking it down. Now they even got AI going over it. So they're telling us right now that if it was the other way around, then there would have been a whole bunch of social upheaval. But that's a lie. Um, but the reason why they do that is because it's clear that someone is trying to spark racial tension. And if we're
Civil War.
yeah, a civil war, and mainly between black and white. It's so obvious when you like take a step back and look at it, look at the lies. And the only reason we would know about it is if we consume this type of media and are able to put it into perspective. But most of us are getting our information from 15-second clips on TikTok, and it's being repeated, and you're getting it from different voices. Somebody that's Italian, somebody that's this, and they're meeting the population at their level. Whatever your flavor is, if you're used to listening to ratchet, ratchet thoughts that talk on there, they got her saying the same thing. If you're a college educated person or whatever, they got somebody saying the exact same thing there. And this is all meant to start just nudging us closer and closer and closer to a clash. And I'm telling you, I'm 100% convinced. We're saying experimentation, but even that is it doesn't really paint the picture because it's not an experiment anymore. They know what the results are when they do this. You know what I'm saying? So they experimented years ago to see if they could do it. Now they are doing it. But we got to use the word experimentation. But yeah, now these are attacks. These are attacks on us. Because they already know what the outcome is. An experiment would be like, let's see what happens. They know what happens when they do these things. But yeah, that's what I wanted to kind of pull on that thread and put those together so you can see. And for the people that listen, check out the story of Nia Wilson. I'm telling you, it is almost only thing different was she was stepping out of the train versus just got on the train. You know what I mean? Other than that, everything was the same. Everything was the same, except that it was a black female and a white dude. So much for the whole.
There was no riots. There was no burning of cars. There was no anything behind
And nobody said nobody was talking about white fatigue. Nobody was talking about white fatigue.
Right. Right. So with that, we're gonna close it up. And we'll be back next week. We'll be back Saturday. I did it today because I would not be available to do it tomorrow. So I said, let's go live today and touch on the subject. Are we still subject to experiments? I want to thank the brother Aaron for tapping in with us. Gap Tooth Truth. Very knowledgeable brother. I say it all the time. And it's always a pleasure to have him join me and build on certain things. And hopefully you'll be back for another one.
Yeah, I look forward to, checking in, kind of building up my my comfort level with being involved in these things, and maybe in the near future I'll be able to invite you onto a live of my own. But yeah, I definitely appreciate whoever checked in, and for the opportunity to be able to speak on these things, because I think it's needed. There's a lot of quote unquote influencers or people giving their perspective on things, and what we don't know is that whether or not they're being paid or if they're part of the experiment where they're coming out and they think they're being I guess sincere or objective, but they're victims of the same type of suggestions that allow them to bandwagon the way that they've been doing with the latest tragedy that happened with you know, with Charlie Kirk, where you could see people just taking sides and doing things that they wouldn't normally do, except that it's being suggested to them one way or the other that they should think this way or that way about it. You just never know. And so voices like this are needed to kind of clarify some things or just give another perspective, you know, that is not influenced by bad actors.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, it's all designed to make us hate each other, to make us want to kill each other. It's almost like the Kingsman.
Yeah.
It's like that's what it's coming to. Everyone's programmed with some form of hatred towards something or someone or something. Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. Order out of chaos. While all this is going on, there's a whole bunch of other things going on behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
This is a super big distraction. Super. All right, with that, as always, it's God time. Salute, peace, Godspeed to everyone that tuned in and is still here. Appreciate you. Appreciate you again, brother, for rocking out. And we'll be back next week with another one.
All right, man. Peace.